Hey everyone, welcome to Admit One with gmoney. Today we have the founder and CEO of Space, an all-around metaverse that focuses on bridging the e-commerce space to the next evolution of the internet. He's here today to walk us through how Space simplifies the onboarding of Web 2 creators and the next evolution of physicals, or as I like to call them, network product. Please welcome Batis Samadian. Hey Batis, how are you?
Hey, gmoney, how's it going?
Great. How are you doing? We were introduced. Let's see. At this point, it was a few months
Through
ago. It was over the
Jessica.
summer through Jessica. Yep, in London when I was there over the summer, and we got a chance to get to know each other, speak a little bit, about like our histories into the space and how we ended up here. But let's start for people that are unfamiliar with you or Space. Let's talk about a little bit about your history and how you ended up founding Space.
Yeah, sure, cool. So yeah, I was born and raised in Switzerland, and then when I went to UBC in Vancouver for college, basically at the start of 2013, me and a couple of my friends, we started mining crypto after we learned about it from a friend at a party, and yeah, that was basically 2013 was kind of my starting point into crypto. We were big believers from the start. Obviously, went through the typical waves like everyone else. And then, yeah, I went to work for a wearables tech company in Vancouver. Dropped out, and then I moved in 2016 to Los Angeles, where I worked for a venture builder. Got involved in some early stage VR projects, and then worked on a couple of other things at the venture builder. And then in 2020, I moved to London, where I was kind of like the product lead, head of product for a company called Zap, which is like 15-minute delivery of essentials, like a GoPuff competitor. And then kind of like the spring of 2021, me and a couple of my friends from the gaming industry, we all kind of came to similar conclusions about what virtual land will be and where virtual worlds will play a big role in the coming years. And so it became really evident to us that, one night we were just hanging out in this VR app where you can watch movies together. And it just became super obvious to us that, hey, it's just a matter of time before we will be watching a fashion show on here and then clicking on the clothes and trying them out and attending people's other immersive commerce experiences in whatever shape and form they might be, with like 3D subscription rooms, virtual stores, maybe the combination of both. And it just made a lot of sense that one, we've seen a lot of different new ways that the internet has allowed people to become successful through streams, watches, listens, then having your subscription rooms and Cameo, which was also a big success. And then we started to see some of these live streaming shopping applications like Pop Shop and Network come out, and Taobao, of course, in Asia. And for us, it was kind of also inevitable there that these experiences where you're in someone who's become famous or some sort of influencer would then launch some sort of store where you would get to know them. You'd be able to buy the products they're suggesting to you and get, kind of have this AMA while you shop and also get to know other people experience. And so for us, this evolution of social shopping became, just incredibly obvious. And we were like, hey, we might be wrong, but there's nothing to lose right now. Let's give this a try. Let's see if this hypothesis is true. And and then basically in kind of like a couple of days, we started building the first proof of concept. And from there, it was almost like a magnetic tribe that came to this project. Everyone we would speak to is like, oh, wow, yeah, this will totally happen in one shape or another. Let's do it. So yeah, this is a bit about me and the history of bringing Space together to become something like a 3D Etsy.
Right. I mean, that's really interesting, right? Because I think obviously, I like the analogy you used to the home shopping network, right? And like having these live programs, right? Because obviously that's been really successful throughout, let's say, the last few decades, right? Obviously with the rise of television and cable television. And, admittedly, I don't know, I guess, enough about where, let's say, home shopping is as a space today. I know it's still massive, But I mean, that to me seems really intriguing of like, what does the future look like? Is there some sort of like where, maybe 5 years from now, even probably sooner than that, a year or two from now, we're having this conversation in an online shop. And I guess it could kind of happen already right now, right? Where it's like, if we were showcasing a product that'd be like up here and we're talking about it and, people can like, I guess mint now, right? Like probably press a button, mint now, while we're talking about it on air and like bring people on and have conversations about it. I think that's really interesting. I'm sure you've spent a lot of time thinking about it. What do you think is kind of like the future of like, let's say that specific vertical? Because I haven't spent that much time admittedly thinking about it.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, look, I think what we see constantly is like the evolution of habits, right? Like with the television version, it was just that like, oh, rather than, the magazine or the booklet that you would get in the mail, conveniently between your favorite shows, someone would run a home shopping network channel where they would do kind of like those cheesy things where, they'd be selling like pots and kitchenware and stuff. And they'd be like, and if you call now, you'll get another 20% and another free pot. And then it kind of disappeared, right? We saw like the evolution of e-commerce and just the ability that anyone from anywhere could put their products on a site or on Amazon and bring it to life. And then from there, I think what we started to see was, people obviously started to form new habits. They liked these recommendations of what to purchase. And we started to see that habit of recommending from a friend or the true human recommendation didn't go away. And so, with social media and the way that we will be recommended products and advertising, we saw, our friends recommend things in DM. Advertisements start rolling in towards things that we're interested in. And then the big pop-up for me, and by the way, I'm a big like MMO RPG fan. I've been like in Habbo Hotel, Club Penguin, Second Life, all this stuff growing up, EverQuest, of course. And it just became even clear in those interpretations in the early days that people wanted something to do other than to just walk around. And so people started to sell skins. And of course, skins became like a huge marketplace. People were trading skins. People were like selling their finished game memory on eBay so that you can have everything they had, assets, game leveling, and all of this kind of stuff. And then again, I think with those mini revolutions, so like with the big financial crisis that came, we saw a lot of things come where people were put in the foreground, right? And Etsy did an incredible job with this, where it was like, hey, if you're the kind of person that builds your own product, you're not trying to drop ship, come meet us in Brooklyn. Come build this future where we as a community are part of this movement to enable this type of commerce. And I think what was very powerful about that, and learnings that we talk about still today at Space, is there's something very profound if people are together about a vision that enables them to create together. And then, so I was like kind of an OG as well in VR, VR chat and all of this stuff. Never really blew up as early as people predicted, but people started doing similar things where you would meet them for discussion rooms or consultations or learning a language. And it was kind of like an on-demand thing where you'd actually PayPal them because there wasn't a way to do it in VR chat. And all of these things made us like collectively think about, hey, from live streaming forward, shop live streaming forward, how does this all come together where, even if I don't necessarily trust you as the influencer who has the room, could I converse with other people who are fans of your brand and give feedback or talk about the decision or shop with a friend that would then convince me to make the purchase? And so another example we talk about a lot is, so there's this Vancouver startup called Herschel. They became really big in the hipster era with backpacks. And something that would be really helpful, I think, for brands in the future is if me and you in that room were like, oh man, really? They're going to start doing like Bottega Veneta wallets now. I wish they would just like allow us to customize backpacks. This is a really profound feedback that you can give a brand, right? They're like, hey, they want to customize backpacks. They don't want us to diversify the products. And I feel like what 3D will enable with this is, so if you're familiar with like in business psychology, there's kind of like this, the study of supermarkets. and how like the way you walk through aisles and what eye level things are placed at, where do you care and what do you not care, and what conveniences should be at the checkout. And I feel what we will learn from 3D commerce experiences is part of all of these evolutions.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's a lot of cool, different concepts coming together, right? Like as you're sitting there talking about like, supermarket placement, right? That's like a real job, in the real world where, there are merchandisers that it's like, yeah, well, if you want this product to sell, you put it here, right? Like if and we have data that backs that. So I think that's really interesting. I think what's interesting really about what you're discussing here, especially taking that social element. And this was obviously really, really big and apparent a year and a half ago when projects would, do their mint and they'd have like these closing parties, right? Like first on Clubhouse, then on Twitter Spaces, where people would just come in and listen and talk, right? So there'd be, some people on stage, some people not on stage listening in, but it was basically a congregation of people talking about and discussing the mint, right? So like we would be here talking about it, but we would be up on our, whatever the domain is on the site or on OpenSea and whatever, and just like looking at like the price and activity and stuff that's going on. And this kind of like takes that to the next level, right? Because it's like, okay, we can now do that, like, go to a space, we can have a discussion. So maybe I don't know, maybe I'm mixing up the concept, but maybe like you and me are on stage having a conversation, but then there could be a group of people in the back that don't necessarily care what we're talking about, but they could be having their own conversation about maybe what they like about the product, right? And that doesn't interfere with ours, because that's like one of the things that happens with Twitter Spaces a lot and Clubhouse back in the day, where it's like, because you don't have the visual cues, it's really tough to kind of like get like a really clean flow of convo, right? Because it's like, I'm like, all right, is this person talking? Are they done? Okay, they muted. All right, I know they're done. Oh, they're unmuting. They want to say something. So it's like, and the more people you have, the more exponential that problem becomes, right? And like, I think it's what's pretty interesting is like you and me could be listening to people talk, but we could be like, all right, I don't really care about this part of the conversation. Like, what else are you minting, Batis? Like, what else are you fired up about? And I think like that social network of it, like within that virtual space, is really compelling and interesting, right? Because you
Absolutely.
could be influencing me on that next buy or on maybe why I should be buying more, right? And I think that becomes really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So actually, we had two things that actually acted in a similar way. One was this rock band, Scary Kids, scaring kids from LA, and there was also the Comedy Bucket in New York, where what you're saying exactly happened. Where there's the main thing happening at the front, but people in the back were like, "Oh, cool, you're here too. Didn't I see you once on Reddit?" Or what brought you here? And they're like, "Oh, I live in Los Angeles. Went to one of their concerts," and they just start kind of like connecting as part of the brand experience, and it creates this thing that brings them back again, because they're like, hey, not only do I want to go because whatever, Scary Kids or Kanye West is speaking now, but I remember all the friends I made when I went to this, right? And I think that was what was really cool as well about the physical first NFT NYCs, was that like we all felt like so new and excited there. We were like, whoa, everyone who is here is a serious OG. So best get to know them.
My first question is, right, so how is this intertwined with blockchain tech on the back end, right? So like on the front end, you have a store, right? And let's say there's like a place where you can go and mint. So I'd be like, I want this NFT. I go over here and I mint it. What does that look like behind the curtains, right behind the scenes?
Sure. So it's a couple of things. So first of all, the whole idea of what we're doing, it's supposed to be an open commerce world. So ideally, very soon, we're going to be giving ability of jobs to our community to be involved with all kinds of things, like earn tokens for committing code to this, earn tokens from helping us QA the platform, form guilds that are helping across the world, bringing referrals to villages. And then, of course, much more simple things on exactly to your question, which is like, payment processing happening on Polygon, minting happening on Polygon or Dapper, the creation of fidgetals, again, being as well on the blockchain, the rooms, the tagging of them, the analytics that happens on chain. All of this, I think, is going to be very insightful, and the more open it is to the community, the more they will converse and basically learn together. And then there's a bunch of like gamification stuff on the blockchain that, if we want to get into that, we can do as well.
So at least initially, the NFTs will be minted on Polygon or Flow.
Exactly.
Is there a reason you chose those two chains as opposed to, let's say, Ethereum or Solana or whatever, any other chains?
Yeah, sure. So it is actually Ethereum bridging to Polygon for the payment processing. So look, I think, first of all, obviously big believer in the EVM network, like that's the way forward. We all have to build on that. That's the way to do it. Dapper specifically because I became a firm believer of Rohan and the way they do user experiences for people that have never engaged with blockchain. I really love how they've thought about things almost Apple-like, where, I may have no clue, and so I don't want to like jump through all of these hoops. I'm really simplifying it for them. And then, of course, Polygon has proven itself over and over again to do really well at scaling, keeping gas prices low, and built a really strong community. I was actually on one of their AMAs a couple of weeks ago. A lot of our people are on Polygon, actually. We did a treasure hunt where you had to go through different rooms so you could win this artifact NFT shoe. And like almost everyone was from Polygon. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, that's really interesting, right? Because I guess those two chains also both survive. They both solve that problem, right, with credit card processing, right? Because I feel like that to me, I've been very much trying to figure out and think about what does that solution look like, where you can be, you can cater to the crypto native, but you can also cater to the person that doesn't know about crypto yet, right? So, and the way you can cater to the person that doesn't know about crypto is by just as easily accepting credit cards. But you also want to be able to accept crypto. So I think that like that is a really interesting problem that I don't think I've really seen elegantly solved just yet, to be perfectly honest. And I want to
absolutely. Yeah, so look, like from my perspective, from like even the early days, right? I think it's a fair metaphor to say that like anyone who's trying to build an open platform or a successful DAO still needs to look up to the grandmaster Wikipedia, right? Like, how many projects have you seen that have actually managed to incentivize people for so many years on end to be the ones that are basically committing the information that you're experiencing, right? Like it's so incredible. And I think it's just like a lesson, not only for us, but for everyone, that you have to keep building these incentives. You have to keep giving people jobs, even like something we discussed the other week, because content and protecting, age groups in virtual worlds is really important. So like enabling people to be like policemen in the world that tag inappropriate content and earn something from this. And I think the power of POAPs also strengthens these badges. So if you're a developer, on GitHub, it's all about these little green squares. But in virtual worlds, I really think these POAP badges from like, doing honorable things for the community or honorable for the whole world and its growth, it's really the way to go.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That just kind of gave me an idea that I want to explore later, I think, after this call. But like, I agree. I think that as we do these community building, right, exercises, and like I think Wikipedia is a great example, is like how have they been able to incentivize people to kind of build and maintain that community over time? And because I don't think we figured it out just yet in crypto. I think we obviously understand the incentive mechanism for financial gain, right? And that's obviously played out with tokens and airdrops and all that stuff. But that isn't necessarily the answer, right? Like I don't think, and I think we've seen that, right? Where people will get an airdrop and they just basically become mercenaries at that point, and there's no like stickiness to the ecosystem, which I think is another interesting case. And I know that's not necessarily really to the subject that we came here to talk about, but I personally think that's a kind of interesting topic to discuss at some point, right?
Yeah. Of course. I was actually just curious also, from you being kind of like a contrarian at the start of the NFT rush, like, what do you think about, like, what are improvements you have or suggestions you've thought about for people trying to build NFT communities? Because, it's really, you have to build a vision beyond this drop and this financial asset that you resell, right? Like you
Right.
really got to build something that people want to keep contributing to.
Yeah, so like, with admit one, one of the things is I just want to make sure that people don't focus on price, right? Because I think that like I think the price metric is, floor price metric is kind of like a BS indicator, right? That people use. It's great when all prices are going up, but prices don't go up forever, right? That's just not like nothing goes up forever, right? Like the best stocks in the world don't go up forever. And so,
Yeah.
to me, like it's like you have to build a community focus around something that's not going to be on that price. So that's why like even in admit one, like the Discord, like I was very, and even people on the team, like, that first 24-hour launch when, we distributed admit one for free. I never wanted price talk. I never wanted to talk about it because like to me it was irrelevant, right? It's like to me it's like build a good community that wants to be there, that will create value and add value, because ultimately like I have my vision on what I want to execute on and I'm going to execute on that. But you like the more network effects that we can get within the community where people are actively contributing to the community and where the community as a whole is benefiting from it, like to me that's like way more valuable than like what me myself as G Money can do on my own. And so like I think we've seen that already within admit one, and like I think the watchers group within it's a community run organization that gets people on allow lists for other projects. Like I think people that have been active in the Discord that like I've seen multiple times, people are like, yeah, I've gotten more value like than the cost of the token just from like the allow list, right? And that's like besides the stuff that like I'm trying to work on my longer term vision and where I want to see everything go with 90cc and admit one coming along with that. And so like to me it's like I think that's been really interesting, and I think part of it has been like I was like, there is no roadmap, right? Because I'm not gonna. I personally think roadmaps are a function of, hey, like what happened was the art wasn't sustaining itself, right? Like a year ago, right? So people were doing these 10,000 PFP projects, and then the floor price would pump, and then it would dump, and then you had these founders that are like, okay, well, what we're gonna do is we're gonna promise X, right? And so then that hopeful promise of X creates the roadmap. People start sticking around because like, okay, well, they just raised a bunch of money, so now they have the funds to go out and build X. I'm going to stick around for it. And like to me, that creates this false sense of hope. And I just don't like, to me, like it wasn't sustainable, right? So that's kind of why I released my manifesto of how I operate, and I'm hoping like the people that read that manifesto and were like, oh, I fuck with this, this is something that I understand. Okay, cool. Like I want to be a part of this community, right? And so that to me, it's like I think I hope that like kind of permeates within the community, but that starts at the top, right? Because like like founders that are focused on floor price or on pumping the token or whatever, like that like trickles down to the community, right? And that affects the base, and that affects the character of how people interact with each other and all these things. So like I think it like founders like have to take a really deliberate approach to like, what do I want this community to look like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? And what do I want it to look like? I mean, it's great, like in a best case scenario when prices are going straight up, everybody's happy. But it's like, when things aren't going as well, right? And we're in a bear market the way, they have been right now, like what does that look like then, right? And so, I think that all community builders have to do this, right? And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. And I think that's a really, really good question.
Yeah, so exactly, like true belonging, or a lifestyle that you all agree to, or like a 10 crack commandments, like this is really what has to be there just in case. Not just in case, but like if all you're trying to do is like be like, hey, trust me, this stock is going to go up, then really what you have is a bunch of finance guys brought together rather than a vision that people can buy into and create Apple Store lines, right? Like that just won't happen otherwise.
Right. Yeah, because like people aren't buying Apple. Well, I mean, I guess in its heyday, some people were buying Apple products to flip them. But like generally, right? Like people don't buy Apple products because they're like, oh, like I'm buying this right now so I can go and flip it on eBay like right away. Like that existed, exactly. I think, at the beginning, but that doesn't exist now, right? And there's still lines. Like I walked into an Apple store just last weekend and I was like, oh, I want like the new iPhone. And they're like, yeah, we're sold out like across like every model. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I thought waiting a couple weeks would kind of would allow me to get it, but still, like, I'm not buying it because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna arb this with like another country where the price is higher. I was just like, I want it, right, and I'm willing to pay that price for it. So I think that's really key and really interesting, and I think that is kind of like. I think that's the next frontier of crypto and NFTs is like, how do you build community without the financial mechanism, right? The financial reward. And I think we're going to start seeing that, right? Because it obviously happens in the real world. Like people form tribes around a lot of different things, right? Like I'm sure you're passionate. You have to, like, we're all passionate about things that we don't experience financial gain in. Right. And so
100%.
It's called a hobby. Right. And so it's like whatever your favorite hobbies are, that's something that you're tribal around without, the expectation of making money off of it. So I think it will come to crypto and NFT specifically at some point. I think it's just a matter of time and, right sizing expectations and all those things. I want to step back for a moment. I want to talk about the actual the engine that you're building Space on itself. What engine are you using for the tech?
Sure. So actually what we did was we initially built off of Mozilla Hub's 3D meeting app. It was actually really popular during COVID. And then we just kept building on Node.js, 3JS, and Elixir. Elixir is like super efficient for world 3D environment experiences as a backend. I do have an ambition to go from here to Play Canvas or Unity WebGL or even Unreal. I have a lot of hesitancies for different reasons, but hope that answers your question.
Yep. So the solutions that you're using now, does that mean that like if I wanted to go get into one of these immersive experiences, you just send me the URL and I can view it from my web browser, or do I have to download?
So there's two reasons why you would choose the route we chose. One is because of A-Frame. A-Frame is incredible because you can have desktop web, you can have mobile web, and you can have WebXR all bundled together. Of course, you got to have great QAs, but you basically are, you're gatewayed through basically all ways that people would interact with your platform. I could send you a link directly to my parcel. And what's cool in Space is you can actually embed your room onto your website as easy as a YouTube embed.
Oh, that's really cool. And so when you say the parcel, so does that mean, is there scarcity in the Space metaverse, or is there like unlimited, like can I make like 1,000 storefronts if I wanted to, right? Like each one.
Yeah, sure. So let's get into this. So because my opinions kind of changed all the time about this. At the very start, the main hypothesis for me was like land will be something like a top level domain. I don't know if we'll compare it exactly, tick for tick that way, but it's inevitable that this is what your 3D website, 3D application is going to be. Then we saw kind of like, people doing this exact thing that you're saying, which is based on limited amounts and kind of like rushing and FOMOing people through this kind of business model. I don't think that I think that was the phase, but we're entering the next phase where like, well, everyone should have a land domain. Everyone should be able to create. There shouldn't be high gas fees. It shouldn't cost me a lot of money to build my second idea or third idea. So Space actually really believes in low costs and not a lot of scarcity. I don't think this scarcity model is going to stand. It's also not the way to scale.
Right, it's not scalable. And it's funny because I think when I had the same process as you when I entered the space and I was finding out about metaverse. I'm like, oh yeah, you want to buy stuff like close to the center of the map or whatever is like the area people will hang out in. And then, over time, you buy that and it'll go up just like real estate in the real world. The big difference between real estate in the real world and real estate in the metaverse is that the metaverse, it's a digital piece, right? So it's like technically like that forcing of scarcity is like bullshit, right? It's like real estate in the real world is scarce in certain areas because like real world land is scarce, right? Like, why is it more expensive to get a house in New York City than it is to get a house in, the middle of Idaho? Is because more people want to live in New York City than Idaho, right? It's as simple as that. But like to your point, and I very much thought when I first entered the space, I'm like, there will be that same scarcity model. Now there will be scarcity in games. I totally agree, right? Where it's like, if I'm playing this game and, like World of Warcraft and like, this is a really important piece of the map and I own land near that, I get that. There should be scarcity in a game because that's the rules that are defined by the game. But then when you, to your point exactly, right, is like if I took a look at Instagram and if every next profile that was created cost a little bit more money than the last profile that was created, like it would cost like $1 million or probably more to create a profile on Instagram right now. And like then Instagram wouldn't have the network effects that it has where it's one of the most used apps in the world, right? Like the part of the reason was like that Instagram scaled is I was like, okay, I have my Gmoney app, I have my Gmoney profile, I have my 90cc profile, I have my Admit One profile, I have all these other profiles that I can be like, oh, this is a separate venture, a separate entity. I don't need to lay everything out, right? And then the value of that account is derived from the content that I put into it, right? So it's like, it's not valuable just because it's an account. It's valuable, right? Like why is Joe Rogan's account worth more than my account, right? Because he puts out more content that more people want to see than I do, right? So technically people like his account's more valuable. So it's like, to me, like that's the scarcity, right? Like the experience that is created, right? Like why are certain places in the world more iconic than others is because the value of the experience, right? Like why is it that Red Rocks, this place in the middle of Colorado is a magnificent venue where bands want to go play, is because of like all the acoustics and the surroundings and all the history that happens there, not because it's just located in like the middle of the desert, right? Or the middle of Red Rocks. I don't know exactly where it's located, but but that to that point exactly, like to me, it's like, I think you're thinking about it in the right way.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I think a lot as well about like, so let's touch on this since we're on virtual land. So the metaverse, right? Like that or the 3D internet or the spatial information highway is really the aggregation of all these virtual world maps coming, gluing together and being indexed so that you have this infinite experience, right? And so when you think about things this way, you realize that, well, the reason I'm going to go to this one is because that was a really fun experience. Either I met incredible people there, is a great debating room, or Gmoney's virtual store is just really more exciting than everyone else. Why? Because, well, he understands the mechanics of it. Immersive commerce does not mean take 2D commerce and just slap it into 3D. It's like fine art. It's like architecture. It's like knowing how to do things in engaging ways that stir conversation, right? And I think, Joe Rogan's a great example of that. How many times does a Joe Rogan podcast come out and it doesn't stir a conversation? And thousands of mini clips are formed from it where like we all go crazy debating about it.
Right. Yeah. It's the quality of that content, right? Because anybody can create a podcast. You just give them a webcam and a mic at this point, right? And they can create something, but that doesn't mean that people are going to necessarily listen to it. No, I totally get that. So I guess one of the things that I guess I kind of glossed over, I didn't realize it, but so your storefronts will they be focused only on, physical and digital products, or can I have a storefront where I sell just NFTs, or is everything going to be linked to physicals?
Yeah. Okay. So now we get into the exciting stuff. So I think we're both big believers in network products, right? I think space is all about enabling, right? Like if you want to sell digital products, you can do that. If you want to sell physical products, you can do that. But I think something that we're going to have a big opportunity with is phygitals or network products, as you call them. I really believe this is going to be almost like a profound industry 4.0 revolution for how we do things and the value propositions we get out of brand engagements. So Space is all about, we're about to launch this digital smart contract. It's going to be one of its kind. We've gotten actually a lot of advice about it, including thank you from you as well. We really believe that if you can find a way where it's super easy for the creator to understand how to make one of these network products and for the consumer to know how to mint them even when the physical item arrives, you've actually created something where the world understands what this 2-for-1 value proposition is. And it makes it also incredibly easier for, NFT projects with merchandise or anyone out there who understands what 2-for-1 can mean to create something there, whether it's the physical or the digital, that is this new value proposition. So something that we talk a lot about internally is, okay, so option one, which is kind of straightforward, is I buy your 9DCC hoodie. My avatar can now also wear this hoodie. Then there's other exciting models as well where what if that digital is something else? It doesn't have to be what your avatar wears, but it for example, it's a gated POAP to your subscription room, or it's something that if I keep it for a really long time, I keep getting invited to your exclusive events around the world, or up to you, and I think that up to you is incredibly powerful, because once you realize, the drop down is not, quite limiting in how I create this, but I could define what that is, suddenly it's a game changer, from charity to water bottle returning to everything. And that's what I'm very excited about with Space.
Cool. That's really interesting. Have you guys done any drops yet on your platform?
Yeah, so there's a couple of people who basically already pre-own the land. These are brands that we've worked with to date. I'll show you them in the podcast as well. We'll walk into, for example, Laughing Geisha, where this is exactly what's happening. It's in a test mode, but they have this 3D environment, which is like a Japanese garden. You see the items once in a while. The artists themselves will show up and talk to the customers and people in her community. And then of course, you receive the physical item at home with a thank you note from Space, and then you start minting the digital. Right. And so that'll be really exciting.
Cool. Can we walk through that? Do you mind walking through the Space right now?
Yeah, of course. Cool. All right, cool. So let me just share my screen. Let me know once you can see it. Okay, great. So first of all, this is the Space website where you can create your own space, but here on the featured page are the brands we've partnered with. And then I'll go into Laughing Geisha because I just talked about it. You can, by the way, join as a guest. It's super easy. And then from here, basically what happens is you enter this beautiful environment where I could meet people. It's social. And then I can also walk up to these items that I see. And, if I click on it, I can just preview the item by itself. If I click on it, actually, then, basically this add to cart side menu pops up where I could add it to cart and I could actually check out and pay with credit card or crypto. So that's really exciting. And of course, people try and build really exciting experiences where, it even has engagement points. So I could meet you here by the river and we could talk about this room, or I could meet the designer behind this brand and just ask them about their inspiration when they were building this. So this is one experience. I'm happy to walk through a couple more. This one's really beautiful. It's one of our most recent. Then we've got also Nutso. So Nutso is actually pretty impressive. It's a brand by one of my friends. I was actually going to introduce you at some point. Lives in London. Streetwear brand with a charity angle to it. And they sold out in less than 2 days in Space. That was really impressive. It was really cool. It's one of actually 4 stores that managed to sell out in a really short period of time. But what was so exciting was he already had fans and he previewed it to them. He told them, hey, very soon I'm going to take this approach into 3D and I would love for you guys to come. And so what he built is kind of like a hut with a swimming pool. And from there, you can buy the items. There's multimedia videos playing. And then, people actually engaged around the swimming pool. It was really exciting.
How many concurrent users can each instance have?
So right now we haven't really gotten past 60. The reason being just, kind of like typical kind of technical hurdles, scalability stuff. JS will be really good for this though. And I'm actually in conversation with Akash Network and the Filecoin team to see about, how could we find a way where together with our community, we can scale it by, incentivizing them and helping them together build something like so they're working on a cloud CPU and GPU solution together. And I really feel like, because you own your own parcel and it's true ownership, it'd be really cool if the community helps keep it live. And by doing that, you can mega scale the experiences and have people inside of them. Cool. So this is the Nutso one, for example. You can see, he's built this hut here. It's like a fireplace. And then you have the items for sale. And then he's got this video that it should be playing. And then here's this pool area where a lot of people were hanging out when they were shopping. And they were like, oh, yeah, I've been following this brand for like 2 years. And I think, one of the big learnings about how to do this the right way is that virtual stores and immersive commerce experiences are all about they're all about convenience and fun meeting. And so the fact that you're not only buying something, right, because that would be boring, but you're engaging with the other people who believe in this brand, or you get to engage with the creative director or with whoever they want to invite. Let's say they did a collab with Awake New York. You could get to meet both the creative directors in here. And I think it's really this combination that really strengthens the value proposition. And something we've been talking a lot to, there's a DJ that we're going to be doing this with. They want to have their virtual store here, but then like a subscription room that's all the way back here. And so, it's about creating this multifaceted experience that keeps your attention and keeps you coming in here to hang out. These are some of the cooler ones. I also have one that's it's actually a brand I really believe in. It's a beauty brand trying to take this step into being a metaverse first beauty brand called Studio Makeup, also sold out. And for them, I think we've built one of the most high def experiences you'll see. Let me just take this into Chrome just in case it loads faster over here.
While it's loading, I'd love to, ask a question or two about the build out, right? So, let's say I want to do a build out. How does that work? Is it as simple as like I talk to you and you guys build something out for me? Do I do it on my own? What are the costs associated with that?
Yeah, sure. So there are two ways. So the first is if we want to do a full custom store, you can do that. And basically what you would do is when you come here and you click to create a new space, you basically go through this setup wizard where it's super easy. Actually, we try to really Wixify building rather than the typical 3D editors that you're familiar with. Where you pick your store, you pick if you want to make it public or private, you choose if it's for commerce or for fun, and then if you don't want to pick a template, you can click to request a custom. Now, right now we've just had this page up so that if people are interested in inquiring, they could click through here, they could get to our Google form. But we're actually about to launch this builder marketplace, and this, again, something we really want to do to incentivize our community. We're partnering with Voxel Architects, Sandstorm, a couple independent agencies so that we have a bunch of builders out the gate when we launch this. And then, of course, you could, if you don't want to build custom, you could use our Easy Builder. And so what we're really proud of about our Easy Builder is that, as you can see, it's very quick. You click through things. You can pick from these beautiful templates. And then from here, it really takes not much more than like 2-3 minutes to set up your virtual store versus the typical 60 hours, 70 hours, passionate builders taking hundreds of hours. And, I've picked my template now. And from here, I go into the store manager. By the way, I think this is loaded meanwhile, so I'll show you this as well. You'll enter into the store manager, and from the store manager, I can create my fidgetals or network products. I can manage the orders. I can create events. I can do settings, and of course, builders can also transfer ownership. And so, I actually have one that I would love to show you how quick and easy it is to build. So I have this one store that I just set up before, where I have this fidgetal that we already put in here. And then when I click on arrange in space, basically you go into this decorator mode. And in decorator mode, you have these predetermined blue boxes where you can place the product that you want to sell. And so again, this takes it all away from like, oh God, I have no idea how to code HTML. I have no idea how to build my own scene, to a full walkthrough setup wizard where you basically help them with every angle of getting this set up. And so you'll see it in a second here. Yeah, go ahead.
So I get a question I have is, let's say, I create the networked product. I can't even say the word because I hate it so much. The networked product. And so I sell that in the store. What chain is that sold on? Like, how did the logistics of that work? The back end of that?
It'll be with Polygon.
Okay, so all the assets will be minted on Polygon.
Yeah.
Will I have the opportunity to mint on other chains if I wanted to?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I don't know where you stand on this interoperability topic, but like, I actually really believe in omni-chain, and like that being the way to us getting to, this interoperability. So, we've got a partnership with Dapper. There'll be a chain you'll be able to mint on shortly. I believe in Near protocol a lot, so that'll be one that'll be available soonish as well. So yeah, we're trying to get on a couple as soon as possible. Okay, so we're here in this decorator.
Not on Ethereum main chain though.
Oh, Ethereum anyway. Sorry, I should have said that out the gate. That one's obvious. That's fundamentally always available. Okay. So you come here into decorator mode and you see these blue boxes. And so if I click on a blue box, you'll see my SKU menu on the right-hand side. And if I click on this Sasha 1, this product will jump in place, and I'll have the ability to basically resize it, change the angle of it, turn it around, depending on how I want people to perceive it. And then once I pin it, literally the moment I pin it, anyone who goes to this link will be able to buy it. And so this is really what we're like really proud of as part of the experience, is that this took like 2-3 minutes. And that really is going to be a game changer for how easy it is to build a beautiful experience. And I mean, check this out. We can go into fly mode. Like, this is a beautiful experience. Right. It's really exciting. So we're constantly working on making this easy builder even better and easier to use. So while we're here, I'm going to take you back to the other experience, which was the studio makeup, which we're really proud of because, they had a lot of, they were like James Turrell influenced as well. And so we built basically this experience that you see here, which, looks really realistic. They've got their makeup products everywhere. They've got multimedia on the walls. There's like a galleria on the left and on the right. And then, of course, same thing. If you walk up to the product, you just click on it and you can add to cart and shop.
Cool. I mean, this is really interesting. I like the Turrell influence. I really like that a lot. It's cool.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting. I think it's really cool how it's kind of like no code, setting up a store, right? Because I do think that where we're at right now is like a lot of things require a lot of, technical know-how, and then, that gets expensive very quick. And so like, I do think that the more no code stuff that we can do and put out there for people, I think the better it is ultimately for, the growing of the segment and the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, do you want to add your own? Do you want to add your own points to network goods? Because I know we spent like a whole breakfast talking about it, but do you want to let your audience know your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think my audience knows my thoughts on network product at this point, right? So, we 90cc is obviously something that I'm super passionate about, and I'm hoping that we can kind of pave the way for what maybe best practices are in the future going forward with like bringing networked goods out into the real world. And so I'm super excited about that. But this was more about you and what you're building at Space. Before I let you go, I want to ask you one question. What's your favorite NFT?
Probably Azuki right now. I'm a big fan of what they did and the effort that went into it. Trying to think what else I'm a big fan of, but probably that one.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I think there was two big buys overnight, two like I think really rare Azukis that were like each bought for like over 100 ETH or something overnight. So
Yeah,
you're not
yeah,
the
that
only
was
one
wild.
that's a fan of what they're working on. But yeah, Batis, thank you for taking the time and coming on. For people that want to stay up to date with all the things that you're working on, where's the best place for them to
Yeah,
stay up to date
sure.
on your projects?
So definitely come on tryspace.com, join our Discord through there. I'm often there available to help people learn how to build their own store. You can follow me at Batis Samadian on Twitter or at Space Metaverse, where we post a lot about what we're doing and our new initiatives. And if you want a store, hit me up. I'd love to help you set it up.
Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time, and everybody that
Hey,
tuned in, thanks for
pleasure.
listening in. All
Thank
right,
you
see
so much
later.
for your time, G. Take
All right,
care.
thanks.
Alrighty.
Bye.